So I'm honored to introduce Garner Holt, the founder of Garner Holt Productions. It's the world's largest producer of animatronics. I got a chance to tour that facility a bunch of times over the last couple of years. It's phenomenal. If you haven't had the opportunity to do that, make sure you do. They do tours all the time. So his journey is nothing short of inspirational, and I got a chance to see him speak the other day. It's super inspirational, so I'm really excited to see somebody who built their business in the Inland Empire grow up to what it is today. He's now a global leader in innovation. So today, Garner will share some key lessons in innovation and entrepreneurship that have helped him succeed and remain cutting edge of this field. Please welcome Garner Holt.
I know I was here to speak today. I didn't know I was a keynote speaker, though. Thank you. That's what I appreciate it. Not a lot of pressure. What a great panel it was. Learned a lot hearing some of those stories. Hope you don't mind if I sit here. I have a bum knee, so I like the coffee lady. I like the energy. I think you drink a lot of the product, but you know, as I said. But that was great. And I think that I wasn't supposed to be an entrepreneur. I was born into a horse family, and the day I was born, all of my uncles and parents and everything else, they were rodeo people, and they were racehorse people, and they had riding stables, and they had roping arenas, and I was in the back of a horse from about 2 months old now, because I proved it until I was about 10. I was a jockey for a while when I was a teenager, and believe it or not, now I get on a horse and think, what the hell? But I used to come home and I'd watch the Monsters, and I'd watch Universal Monsters on TV, and I just love that kind of thing. I love haunted houses. And one evening I came home on a Sunday evening and I saw this thing about Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, and it had opened a couple years earlier. This was about 1972. And I ran into my parents' room. I remember it like it was yesterday. I said, Mom, Dad, can I take me to this place called Disneyland and see the Haunted Mansion? And they took me there, and something happened. Something switched or something, and I told them on the way home, leaning over the back seat of the car, that I was going to build the things at Disneyland. I wasn't going to be a jockey. I wanted to, a veterinarian. They wanted me to be a veterinarian. I wanted to be a builder of Disneylands and things. And I started a card table. I put a card table in the garage, and that was GARNER HOLT Productions. And it grew into 2 card tables and 3, and then pretty soon my parents started parking outside the garage, which was great, and it just kept rolling from there. And that was, I wrote my name on the garage in 47 years ago, this last July 25th, and that was GARNER HOLT Productions. Grew out of that little garage after doing some displays and things for corporations, for trade shows. I did some things that for holidays, for malls, holiday things. And that started getting me some recognition. I started to grow a little bit. I'm totally unconventional as far as all of what I hear about entrepreneurship. You have to excuse me for that. I had no business plan. I didn't finish high school. I tested out in my junior year. Never went on college or anything. I worked my way into, I heard about a theme park being built in Las Vegas, believe it or not. It's called MGM Grand Adventures, and the MGM Grand Hotel was built. It's not there anymore. They figured that square footage is worth more with slot machines than it is with a theme park. This is just one quick entrepreneurial story, I guess. Theme parks don't get built very often, and I wanted to be involved in it so bad. And I had no way to be involved in it. I had no way to connect to it. I had never worked on a theme park. I had no employees. I was the only employee. I had no experience. I never worked on a big job. And I went to basically tried the front door approach. Nobody would see me. They wouldn't talk to me. I was just a snotty kid. I started going around to, I said, I have to do this. So I started going around to all the other vendors. I went to the electricians, Bombard Electric. They told me to get lost. I went to the people that were building the rock work. They told me to get lost. And I went to the people who were putting the air conditioning in the MGM Grand, the largest hotel in the world. And they said, we know what you're talking about, but we'll see you. So I took my little briefcase that I got from Goodwill and for 25 cents, and I went into a board meeting and in front of a group of people, like a board meeting at a big table. And I showed them my presentation about how I could build animatronics and things like this, and the displays and things that I built. And At the end of the presentation, everything was really quiet, and they looked at me and said, "What does that have to do with us? We're building the air conditioning for the hotel." And I said, if somebody here will help me get a connection to the people that are doing this, so I can, present this, I will give you a percentage of the money that I make to do this job. So I basically ended up with a audience with Fred Beninger, who is the chairman of the board of MGM. I had 15 minutes to sell the whole idea to him, showed him all my stuff, and he basically said, well, if you can do that, you can probably do our attraction, which was the largest animation-based ride in their park. And I didn't tell him that I didn't have any employees. I didn't tell him I didn't have any, that I'd never done anything in a theme park before. But one thing led to another, and it kind of unfolded, got a job there. I asked him, I said, Mr. Beninger, he kind of liked me because I was a spotty kid and he wanted to give me a chance. And I said, if I do a good job, will you recommend me to others? And he said, yes, I will, and I'll write a letter. And so we were the first company completed on site. I had my friends come in. We worked 24 hours a day. I lived in the shop in a sleeping bag. We basically, friends worked for pizza because I didn't have any money to pay them. First 10 years of the business I slept in the lobby in the sleeping bag. It was my house as well as my shop. And we got it done. I ended up getting into Vegas. I ended up doing some Vegas shows in the casinos. Ended up doing things at the Prim and State Line. Gary Prim called and said, Fred says you did a great job. Let's do some work out here. I started working at Knott's because of that. Started to get hooks into Disney and doing small things, great float things and displays and window displays, that type of thing. And ultimately had a big chance to do a big show for Disney, which was the Haunted Mansion Holiday Overlay, which was my first big theme park job for Disney with all figures in a classic Disney attraction. That was in 2001, remember it very well because we were loading it in when 9/11 hit. And that changed everything because Disney could see that I did the level of quality that they have and was able to meet the standards that they had and do it for a third of the price that they could do it for themselves. So if any of you have been to theme parks around here, Disney theme parks, we have over 475 figures in Disney parks worldwide. We have, if you've been to, just Disneyland here, you've seen dozens and probably 100 of our figures. If you've been to Universal Studios, you've seen hundreds of our figures. If you've been to Knott's, you've seen all the animation at Knott's we've done. If you've been to Chuck E. Cheese, after we got rolling with the Disney and Universal, Chuck E. Cheese came to us and said, we need a new show that is representative of the new technology and everything else, Disney cell technology. So that was about a 28-year job. We did 555 restaurant shows worldwide, and that begat theme parks all over the world, and we worked in 36 different countries now, and we have a great, amazing staff, the best in the world at what they do. If I look back at all of this, I don't, I had to figure it out as I went along. When I left the office that day, they asked me to put in a bid, a proposal. I literally came home and asked my mom, I said, what is a bid and a proposal? And so she called a friend who built apartments, and I went over to his place, and I saw a piece of paper that said, we respectfully submit this proposal. Copied that, put it in, like I knew what I was doing. It's very unconventional. I just really had to learn every little piece of it as it went along. A lot of great advice up here. Some of the things that I've learned, people have said, well, why is your company successful? Why have you done what you've done? The first thing I always tell them is I always give customers more than they pay for. That's always been a thing with me. If you buy a figure that has, that I bid with 20 functions, when you get it, it'll have 22 functions, and it'll have more than you expected, and you'll go, wow, nobody's ever done that. Nobody's ever done something, everybody else is trying to cut corners. So many little sayings that I've thought of along the way. When you're talking about banks up here earlier, I always tell everybody, banks will only give you money when you can prove to them you don't need it. That's been one of my mottos for a long time. Employees, I have some of the best people in the world that I've cultivated over many years. I have about 75 people, and they are literally the best in the world. I've been there for 30 years at the shop, and I try to give them a good working environment. I try to pay them as best that we can and keep them. Some of them have come up from the very beginning in the garage when I had monsters jumping up in the garage to scare people. Dixie, raise your hand. This is Dixie right here. She rode bikes with me when I used to ride bikes when we were 12 years old. She was one of the ones that I forced to stand in front of monsters in the garage and test them out. She's my executive assistant, and I have a lot of people that work for me that are people that I grew up with that basically have learned and gone along with the shop and understood in what we do. I don't have trouble getting employees because of what we do, and it's kind of a cool business. People send resumes to us, by the dozens all the time, and a lot of them are former Disney employees and that type of thing. But it's still true that your employees are your part of the business and the most important part of your business. But at the same time, that's still some of the grief. Most of the grief comes from employee issues and things like that just are inevitable with human nature. But I don't have a lot of turnover. We have a lot of great staff. And so having said all that, and knowing that, move real quickly here, part of what I do has been fun because people always, whether it's in a tiny building or in a building that we're in now, we're in a 120,000 square foot building, and everybody always wants to know what we're doing in that building. We're building dinosaurs or building something or crazy. And so I've given tours all of my days, and for 30 years. I never turned anybody down. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, college kids, high school kids, doctors, lawyers, they come into the shop and see what I do. And dentists would tell me, I don't want to be a dentist anymore. I want to build dinosaur teeth, I want to work here, But they'd always leave with a smile, and they'd always leave inspired and like, this is really cool, and I'd like to do this someday. And they always say, I want to work here. And so a couple of years ago, I adopted a school in San Bernardino, started helping the school with stuff related to animatronics. And then one day I got together with some educators, and we decided to create a concept because I didn't go to college. The reason I'm sitting here to see you today is because of my shop classes when I was in high school and junior high. Metal shop, wood shop, welding shop, auto shop, sculpture, art. Schools don't have that much anymore. There are hardly any schools that have shops. They've gone away. And so I said, well, let's create not a maker space, but let's create a maker space where we can take a shop class, fill it up with all kinds of modern equipment, like laser cutters and CNC machines and rapid prototype machines, to where you end up with curriculum and lesson plan that has you build an animatronic figure, like a tiki bird that you can program, and it works and it talks. And let's sell these concepts to schools. And we started doing that, and it started to roll. And the libraries caught on and said, wow, that's cool. Libraries are kind of slowing down because of the people using computers. And so let's have a way to have this kind of training in libraries. And as we started moving forward, I needed very badly to get really good people in there to run this thing. And in a minute, you'll meet Jermaine here, who is the Vice President of Garner Holt Education Through Imagination. And we have, she'll tell you about our animator spaces and things. And then that led to our foundation, our Holt Foundation, where we are putting together animator spaces, and we take tours with kids, like things like Loma Hospital and schools. We have bird camps, and kids get to come in and for free. They get to build animated figures, and they take them home. They're foster kids and underserved kids that will never be able to afford to be able to go to anything like this, or would never be able to take something like this home. They learned how to use tools. They learned how to build things like we used to in shot glasses. And so that's a big piece of what we're doing now. We're working all over the place. We're working in Florida. I have people right now that their parents sent me a picture this morning, and they said the beautiful palm tree that was there yesterday is not there anymore outside our window. They're in Orlando. And we're in Japan. We're working on these projects, but we're mostly, and I'll never stop working on theme park projects because that's what I love. I love to get up in the morning, and you know that saying, you love what you work, work a day in your life. That's me. I get up in the morning. I know I'm going to come to work and build things to make kids smile, and things that are giant toys that make people happy in theme parks. And that's my life bet. I always, as I aged on, I turned 64 the other day. I thought to myself, I got another good 20 years probably, but how am I going to leave this? What am I going to leave behind? And that's really where the education thing jumped into me and said, I got to use animatronics as a hook to teach kids about the 50 different careers that are inside this building and put them in an animator space, let them learn about all these different things, sculpting, costuming, art, computer programming, wiring, mechanical, all this stuff, and give them hope for the future, for education, for career paths. That's what it's all about. Get them to start thinking about career paths early. And one of the most, they do studies on academic pointers in schools, and that tell you, through different academic indicators what a student will be or what they'll do or how successful they'll be. And they found that the most important pointer that says how somebody will evolve into the life as a success is their level of hope. And it's not math, it's not science, it's their level of hope. Because if a student doesn't have hope, a kid doesn't have hope, and they have no value in their life, then it doesn't matter what you know and everything else, how badly you want to become an entrepreneur and anything else. But we want to instill in them ideas and spark for the future, and how maybe the little piece of pixie dust I got when I went to Disneyland, and let them go on and have a life, because you can't talk to somebody about a career if they don't know it exists, right? So they learn about all these different things, and they get excited about, machines like CNCs and things like that. So that's what we're doing with kids. Love it, enjoying it. That's the legacy that I want to leave behind, is the education. We're building this all over. We've got animator spaces all throughout the Inland Empire. We just installed 2 in Kansas City, one in Desert Sands. We're putting one in Boston, I think, New Mexico. We're putting them all over the place. There's 136,000 schools in the country, and as far as I'm concerned, we'll want one in every one, except maybe 1 or 2. But this is our plan, and I'd love to tell you more about it. So my time is probably up. I don't know anything else more I can say, but eventually you'll hear it today from Jermaine, who runs that portion, and hope you're interested to hear about that. So thank you very much.